Welcome to the richness of our lives. I'm Maree Scott, and this is where we celebrate the wisdom, courage, and stories that shape us. Every 2 weeks, I sit down with entrepreneurs, coaches, and remarkable people who've walked through fire and come out transformed. This isn't just about success. It's about the richness of the human experience. So grab a cup of tea, settle in, and let's dive deep. Hello and welcome to the Richness of Our Lives podcast. I'm your host, Maree Scott. And if this is your first time at our podcast, you're in for a real treat. This lady is dynamic and she's like a rocket launcher, and she's rocket launching into 2026, but that's not new to her. She resides in Oamaru in New Zealand. So this part of the world, we say she's across the ditch. So if you live in the US, you need to Google that and find that. This woman is an entrepreneur, and I think probably she's someone that was born an entrepreneur. She is a creator of great projects. She's been a farmer. She's now got an amazing project. We'll leave that for later for her to talk to you about. She's been a teacher. She has led many people. Please welcome to our podcast, Maree Shepherd. Hello, Maree.
Hello, Maree. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. Well, there you are in Oamaru in New Zealand in the South Island for those, and don't run off and check your geography. You can do that later. So is that a fair comment? You were born an entrepreneur?
I didn't realise until I was about 13, but yes, I feel when I reflect back, definitely.
And at 13, what was the revelation? How did you know now that you're looking back on that time?
I loved making money. I started working in a little store making ice creams and serving lollies and things like that, and I couldn't wait to see how much money I could put together. And just talking to you then, I remember taking more milk tokens or milk money and doing things with that too in the prior years to that, which was pretty shunned upon coming from a religious family. So,
Yes, that's right. So I think when we spoke last, you said you loved the smell of money. It was something about it.
yes, well, it's interesting. I had some pig farmers friends, and they came to my farming property and they said about the smell. I said, "Oh, it's the smell of money, honey."
I love that.
That's what I chose, and it's the path that I went down to create some wealth.
Yeah, that's fabulous. And so what was you after that job at 13? Where did you jump to then?
Well, I carried it on. I actually started working in an accounting firm, and I suppose I got a teaser there of how business structures worked and where I could play a role with that. And I still worked at this dairy on a Saturday when everybody else was playing sport and things. And my fiance at the time, we were also building a house, our first home. So we got into property developing at the same time. So it was sort of all around me at that time. Yes.
And how old were you when you first got into property developing?
I would have been 16 when I
Like
met
that?
this chap, and he was a builder, and he had a section, and I think $5,000 freehold section, and I earned $5,000 in cash. And in those days, it gave you a deposit. You could borrow some money and build. So we did a wee series of those as well.
Remarkable at 16. That's fabulous. I'm already inspired just listening to that. So you went on, you created that project. Then what happened?
The divide by two situation, which is the end of a marriage and two beautiful children. And we weren't on the right paths. We were with what we were doing, but not as people. And I had then started with tutoring at Polytech because I had some super skills come first in New Zealand with a few situations, and I went down that tutoring business studies path. And that's where I first learned about personal development and personal growth with my campus manager. And that was what really got me hooked. And it gave me the opportunity to see why I thought like I did.
And what was that all about? I mean, did you come from a wealthy family in the first place, or like How did
No, my family, they sort of didn't live week to week, but they were modest, and they wouldn't pay for it. They wouldn't buy anything unless they could pay for it. They wouldn't pay anything off. They were very modest with how they lived, and like mum sewed and knitted, and I repeated that in my journey as well with my own children. And so it was more about saving for things. So they and my parents were very classic and very conservative and pessimistic. And I came out of a different mold, and I didn't want to be like that. And my brain is wired differently, and I embrace that. But it has been a struggle right throughout my life with my family and friends, and some and community, living in a small community. But it's my path, and it's right for me.
Oh, I love that. So you're embracing the uniqueness of yourself. That's a pretty cool thing to think about. Did anyone inspire you when you were younger, or it was just,
Well, my this Polytech campus manager, I loved how she kept calm in any situation, and how she enriched other people's lives and her views. Um, yeah, it was that calmness, I think, because I came from a more disciplined background. And so I just saw that there was an alternate. So I read what I could, and wasn't probably podcasts in those days, but watched videos and DVDs probably in those days. And I suppose in my work career, I got the confidence because I had students coming, and they were adult students. And I was able to show them and enable them to show confidence as well. And as that builds, you build your own confidence along with that.
yes, what's that saying? You teach best what you need to know. And I've found over the years that's pretty accurate, you know.
I was probably flying off the seat of my pants a lot of the times. And I remember when I went for the interview, the manager, she actually asked me, my strengths was easy, and she asked me what my weaknesses were. And I got up and I stood over the window, and that was my big dilemma. Do I tell her what I'm really like, or do I not? I thought, no, I'm authentic. So I sat back down and said that I do talk more than I listen. And that's something I wanted to work with. And I think that's what sold her. But the role, because I was a tutor, it was a more talking role, but it's something I've learnt to dial down as the years have gone, and then to encourage others to, like an old radio, to dial up.
Yes. You know, the more I think about our last conversation and today, I I was thinking you're pretty much a self-made woman, aren't you?
It took a long time to get the confidence for that. That pessimism that I was brought up with, and the negativity. And my only other sibling is 15 months younger than me, and she was the academic, and that was more the way of my parents' thinking. So the darks, going to university, whereas I chose the other path. And we're both actually very successful women in our own fields, but my path wasn't recognised. But I shouldn't say but, I still chose to follow my path because it felt right. And it
Yeah.
does feel right. And it's more liberating.
Well, absolutely. It's more you. And when you're being more you, my experience is certainly it is very liberating. And what were you tutoring on exactly?
On business studies, so accounting, computing, communication skills, and word processing in those days. But yeah. So,
Wow.
what I would do is do one semester of learning, and then I could teach it the next semester. And
That's
it's
fabulous.
portraying that confidence. And it's not, I don't like the words faking it till you're making it. It's about being authentic, but still showing the confidence with what you're doing. And if you don't know, say, look, I can't help you with that. Can I find out and come back to you? And I
Yes.
think that's showing your honesty and integrity is more important than knowing everything.
Yes, yeah, yeah, that's lovely. That's absolutely true. And share broking, you did a bit of that and learned that when you're
I
at that.
did. I worked for. I was only sort of 17, and there was an older chap in the office, the accounting office, and he was quite a strict old chap. But I just resonated with him really well, so I did quite a bit of share broking with him. And I remember he was going over to the UK, so I was probably only 17 or 18, and he left me in charge of the business for 6 weeks, and one of his old clients, he actually physically came in and he wanted to speak to this Miss Mackay, and I said, that's me. And I think his words were, oh, you were just a young flippity jit. And I said, well, this is who you've been dealing with. And that took him a while to accept that my youth. But I reflect back to, I do a bit of personality profiling, and I do have that personality that knows a lot of things and doesn't know how I know it, whereas other personalities have to do all the learning and the university and that sort of study. But in saying that, it's about not giving away too much of that to get into people's faces, because that know-it-all isn't a very well-liked person. So it's just balancing that act as well. And
Yes.
I feel most entrepreneurs are of that bent.
Yes, that's right. Do you think that's helped with your credibility or not?
By acknowledging, do you mean by acknowledging that?
Yes. Do you think
Yes,
saying...
I do. And that's got, as I've got more mature, and I also sometimes more so now get asked if I've got ADHD, and I say, well, why do you feel I need a label? You know, we've all got our strength, and because I don't live in the square, the box that other people desire me to be, and live my own path. But I'm not, I'm a kind person, I'm giving, I'm very Christian and very valued. So it's not about doing things in spite of anyone else or anything like that. It's to be my true self. And that's taken a long time to lose those indoctrined behaviours, that those shoulds that we've been shoulded on or shouldn't have on by family over many, many years.
Yes, that's right. Those can be the things that hold us back, and looks like you've flipped them off and continued anyway.
I have, but like, I'm 65, just turned 65 recently, and I really feel at peace now with it. And I see younger people, they've actually got that skill. I almost wonder though, there's a little bit of arrogance in with it. Like I can do anything, whereas it's not about that. With me, it's not where I sit.
No, like I guess then the wisdom kicks in, doesn't it? Like you can't, that younger person, be it whatever that means, 20, 30, you can't suddenly have wisdom because you haven't got the experience, and now you've got the lived experience, which quite often equals wisdom, and you go about things in a particular way. Then you layer this incredibly unique, I'm going to still say this, self-made woman that really, back in the day, if you like, for want of a better term, was probably frowned upon. Like, goodness gracious, she's not going along the family path, you know, and it's such an expansive way of living your life, and it's such a cool thing because it opens up so many more opportunities. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, it's absolutely. And like, even like when I got married, I was 19 and all my friends had babies straight away. I left it for nearly 6 years to have a child, and that was frowned upon. So I've always been quite career driven, and I love my children. I was at home with a 3.5-year-old and an 18-month-old, and I was climbing the walls. I was walking all the time, and I was wearing out tires on buggies and things like that because I needed to be doing something. And yeah, so the Polytech opportunity, that's just where it started. And then when I separated a couple of years after that, I was able to be on a 0.7 salary, and I didn't have to worry, didn't have to go on dependent on a benefit or anything like that. So, and I had some from property developing, I had a chunk of cash there at the time as well. So I was able to buy a property myself, which Dad helped me painting, and I made drapes, you know, all the things you do. Yeah.
That's right.
So
And women,
I always see the value in something else. Yeah.
yeah, and women didn't do that, did they? They do now, but they didn't then. You were breaking the ground a little bit, especially down the south of the South Island. That I would have thought that was amazing.
It's a very, very classic town. It's 14,000 people, an elderly and a youthful population, so it's very, very classic. And I was just thinking then, I used to knit a jersey with beautiful different colours, I can't remember what it's called now, and I would earn $50 a month for that, and then that would give me my material and fabric to make clothes for myself and my children. My mother and grandmother were both in retail fashion, so it's been quite important for me, and to dress well and to have my family. So we all had these mix and match outfits, and my children cringe now looking back, but then they realised that they had this creative artist sewing for them and knitting for them, and they had unique again.
Yeah, that's lovely. And then is this the time that you went into farming, milking cows, share farming?
Yes, well, that was a complete contrast. After my marriage ended, a couple of years later, I met a dairy farmer, and and he had some older children that lived in the North Island. So sort of I was very tiptoey with that because it became a whole new lifestyle. And I like fashion and clean, and this was definitely not a situation like that. But whatever I do, and I love this man, so he embraced my children as well, and I with his. So whatever I do it to 110%. And so I pitched in. I was still tutoring, and I would be relief milking at weekends, and I hated that, absolutely hated that side of it. But I went to every conference I could go to. I went out with the farm advisor a day, a fortnight, I think, to learn how to read how much grass was in the paddocks and things like that. So, and we went into various competitions. I'm a very high achiever, and I won't go in for something unless I feel I can achieve well. And we were successful in the New Zealand dairy industry with Shemukka of the Year, and I got the award Best Financial Man of the Year. So that gave me a renewed confidence, because when you benchmark in New Zealand, it's different from a small community.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. And you built quite an empire there. Is that a fair comment?
We did. So we had a couple of share milking jobs, and we had a couple of equity farm owning partnerships, going small, and then I think it was about 3,500 cows over 4 different properties, so lots of staff, and it was pretty tough. And I also did a diploma in agribusiness management extramurally, got an A+ for that. So, it was a lot of pressure on myself and us and what we were doing. And we always seem to never have enough money when you're doing these things. You're always short 100,000 or whatever the number is. And we stretched bank managers' ways of thinking but the pinnacle came in 2001 when my mother became terminally ill with a brain tumour, and she needed our support. It was a very short diagnosis, and it really brought reality back to my world that, yes, achieving is fantastic, but not at the cost of the important other things. So I actually left the tutoring and concentrated fully on the business and with my family. And then my dad, had depended on mum for all the domestic chores, so I was spending time with him as well, and that was quite a difficult time because it was not a person I respected a lot. And then when mum was passing, my dad was this most beautiful, kind, caring, loving man that I'd never seen. So I was fortunate to have another 17 years with him, and dearly loved that man when he left this life. So, I feel that sometimes the universe gives us opportunities. Yes, it was losing my mum, but it was an opportunity to have a better relationship with my dad. And I gained a lot of respect with him. It was there, but he didn't express it to me.
Yes, that's and 17 years well cherished.
Oh, absolutely. And he was quite a fun person. I never saw that. I saw this frustrated man and trying to do well for his family and not having a lot of fun. So he was actually quite a hilarious person. Our personalities were quite similar. So he was Johnny Mac, and he'd sit in the passenger seat in the latter years because he wasn't able to drive, and try and tell me how to drive. And I'd say, well, you haven't got a driver's license. And he'd say, well, I've got a gun license. And I said, we just banter. It was easy. It was lovely. And he was great help with my children because I lived in the country, and he lived in town. So yeah.
Yeah, that's lovely. How important is family to you, Maree?
Oh, it's absolutely crucial, Mary. And it weaves its own paths. As I said earlier on, I've the one sibling, and I've actually chosen 5 years ago to have nothing to do, more to do with that sibling. So it's another one of these choices of daring to be different and doing what's right for me. Um, I it was on the day of my 60th birthday, and there was some not very nice comments to me in front of quite a few of my friends that were staying. And I asked my sibling to leave the house, and one of my friends said, "They're narcissistic," and I didn't even know what a narcissistic was. I live in a little happy bubble in my life. I'm quite naive, I suppose, in a way. And it highlighted a few things and people around me that and behaviours that I didn't want to be part of. So I haven't actually seen my sister in all those years. And because I like to be kind and giving, there was a bit of guilt for a start, but the freedom of not having 58 years or however many years of not so nice behaviour to me has been better.
Yeah, that's lovely, isn't it? Going going back to the dairy farming and all that went with that. Were you the business brain? Were you the driver, or were you both
Yes, that
driving
was
it?
how it was. We both had our separate roles, and that used to frustrate because my farmer was born into farming, and that used to frustrate him at times. We like for one example, we went away for a few days and came back, and he panicked and said we need to open the silage stack because there wasn't sufficient grass. But me, in my way, said let's do a feed budget. Let's see what we've got ahead of us and around us, and because if you feed out silage, that's a cost, and I'm quite cost conscious. So we didn't have to open that silage stack for another 10 days. But those sort of times did frustrate him because he
Yeah,
couldn't make that decision solely. And there was a bit of conflict with that. We had to work our way through that.
yeah, you're quite the strategist.
Yeah, I try to be. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
that's
interesting, yeah. Sorry.
no, go on. I want to hear more.
No, as you'll come into it later on, I think.
We're just following the bouncing ball, and I'm loving it, Maree. It's just fabulous. And what was the highlight for you? You won lots of awards with that business. What was, if you could pinpoint one highlight, what was it for?
Oh, that was good. We were asked to be guest speakers at a business called Tasman Agriculture, which owned 74 dairy farms in the South Island. And there was a career progression situation from 300 to 400. So it was quite a safe pathway for a lot of these 50-50 share milkers. And we share milked for a private owner. Well, we had a couple of equity partnerships. So we got asked to be guest speakers at their final conference. They had Briley's Investments was their major shareholder, and they were selling down the whole business. So that opportunity to speak to these share milkers, and rather than looking at it, they were in a flurry because their security was disappearing ahead of them. And so my first words were, "What an amazing opportunity this company is offering you." And they had first opportunity to buy their dairy farms, and they had to be ready for that. Well, we planted some people in the audience, and we ended up buying the largest dairy farm at a discounted price. I know it was just sheer. No, it was. I'll take ownership of that. The largest farm, it didn't milk on the whole farm, and there was an external party wanted to buy some of these farms, and they upped and down the prices on various farms. And this particular one, they dropped the price because they felt this particular share milker wouldn't buy it. And we went in partnership with them. And so instead of milking, I don't know, 800 cows, we were able to milk 1,400 or something. So all of a sudden it made the whole land worth a lot more. So there was a wee prize to capture there. And the people putting in the offer at the next conference I went to, he said, "That was your idea, wasn't it?" And I, "Yes, it was." So, and he went, "Good on you." So that was a great foundation to do more what we want. We've built a bit more wealth, and we were able to do more on our own than with other people because that creates its own sets of issues as well.
Yes, it does indeed. And so you let that go. You sold that, and What happened then, Maree?
Well, we did have to sell because we had not a CEO, he was a operations manager, and myself as financial manager, and there was a clash. So we got someone in to do job descriptions and personality profiling, and I feel this person preferred to do things on their own and took it personally if I was doing part of my role with spreadsheets and things like that. So then we bought what we call a runoff, so a dairy support block near our dairy farm down near where we live, that we'd ultimately bought out 100%. And yeah, so that life was a lot easier then. And yeah, so we had 650 cows and a lovely support block, and everything was going along a lot easier. And by then the children were teenagers, and the other ones were older and starting to do their own paths as well.
That's lovely. And what happened then?
Well, I'm just sitting in one of my guest rooms, and out from that is two Oamaru stone statues. They're life size, and Oamaru stone is a porous limestone that a lot of the buildings in my town are made of. It was my 50th, and I wanted these two statues commissioned, and one was of a man, and he's leaning on his hands on the back of a chair, looking out adoringly at his wife. Unfortunately, my husband was looking the other way. So that changed my whole dynamics. And I'm very principled and very valued. I was just followed this journey to see what was happening. And when it was confirmed, I ended my marriage that day. So along with that, and this was a person that I loved and had spent 20 years with and trusted my children with. And he has since regretted it. And I have not gone back there. I need to trust people that are around me. So we still farmed together for 5 years. So it was on a different basis, more as company directors rather than partners in love. And reflecting back, I do think that some of the business time did interfere with our personal time as well, to be fair. And that's why we had gone down to one farm, one dairy farm, and one support block in recognition of that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hard call, living and working together 24/7. It's very demanding. It's quite a different dynamic to having, let's call, a regular relationship. I don't even use regular with you, but over there it's quite different. And so that took you down a different path then, and back to Maree, this unique human being, took what path then?
Well, for 5 years we still farmed together, but it wasn't the same, and we had intended to do that for a more significant number of years because we had great skills together. But there was some third parties came into that on his behalf, so that didn't work for me. So we sold the farms, and then it was, oh, what do I do now? Because that's where I live, where my energy and growth has come from. Yes, and kudos with friends changes. No one wants to take sides, so that all that changes as well. And then also an inner feeling of disappointment in self. So I fluffed around for about a year, and then I became involved with an online international personal development business. But I had money in the bank, and I loved the product. Personal development, it's my passion, it's how I live and breathe. Having this money in the bank wasn't a good motivator for me to drive because I had that safety there. And I made some reasonable money. And it wasn't really where I wanted to be. So I ended that, I think it was after 3 years. And I was lost again. And then I thought, I started looking at property, and I bought a 250 square metre 1972 house and had external contractors put a new kitchen, a new bathroom, and paint it, and I did all the garden and all that sort of thing. And I think I paid $460,000 for it. I claimed back GST of $70,000, which paid for the repairs, and I sold it for $760,000.
Wow.
So I thought $300,000 a year, that's a pretty good income was sort of waving the finger and doing some gardening. And I thought, well, I'll do that again. And then I started looking, and I saw this property here at 5 a.m. in the morning. I'm still part of the 5 a.m. brigade, and I'm a 7:30 go to bed at night person. And it's just how my brain is wired. And like one of those ever-ready batteries, I run out by the end of the day. And yes, I saw this property and I thought, oh, that would be a good reno. And I couldn't get to see it because it was level 3 of COVID. Yeah. And there was 2 viewings that day. And I said to the young agent, oh, I want to see it today. So I became the 3rd viewing. And I walked this double-story property, and downstairs it had a games room and a carport. And I walked up the top of it, and it overlooks the harbour, the Maree lookout point, which has got bush reserve, and then the other way we've got beautiful westerly mountains, which are snow-capped in the winter. And I said to the young agent, this is what I've been looking for, because I've walked around this area. So my aim was to have it as a home. So the next year was planning, looking. Oh, I put a contract on it that day, that's right. And part of it wasn't structurally sound, so that had to come off, and the rest wasn't really that structured particularly well to renovate. So the decision was made to excavate, eliminate, and rebuild. So it's an incredible site. There's nothing else like that in this town. So I engaged a young architect who was sort of up and coming, and we did a design, and then I realised we got a price at Wilkes, we need to do something about this. So then I went down the let's do Airbnb paths, so that could manage itself and give me my static income. And then I got spend a bit more thought to it. What I do is I pick up a stone down at one end of the wharf here by a cafe when I've got a problem, or if I'm unhappy or I've got tears to get rid of, I allow myself to have that sad, unhappy or whatever behaviour or confused. By the time I get to the end of the wharf, I throw the stone into the harbour, and I turn around and come back. I might not have a solution, but I'm back into positive thinking. What can I do? How can I resolve this? Where can I go? Type of mindset. And I used this just yesterday with my grandchildren, actually. And my little grandson was very unhappy all the way down there. And by the time they turned around, it just happened naturally. And he came back and he'd forgotten what he was unhappy about. So it's a good strategy.
Oh, I love it.
I know. It's quite cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or if there's people you're not happy with, just put their name on it and chuck them in the sea, and they can rest there. And I don't do it horribly. It's just you need to not dwell on it and take it with you. And yes, so then I thought, oh no, I like a nice lifestyle, and I do like a nice lifestyle. And so then I started looking at luxury. This is such an amazing luxury accommodation. So then I switched, and we up-spec'd the property, and I could see that I wasn't going to have any money left in my portfolio, and I probably would need to borrow some money. The real grand design story is definitely something that's happened here. And I didn't have all the answers, and I trusted that whatever I do it well, and that I would do it right. And I've always had a product to sell, and I do have a holiday home that I could sell. I did have my backstop. I still have that at the moment. And away we went with this, and then there was issues with council, with unfairness with getting consents, and delays there of about 8 or 9 months, and I had to reapply, and I was treated unfairly compared to a lot of some other situations which I found and put them in my I keep finding, keep searching, keep looking if I feel I'm not being treated fairly. I'm very fair, and I put those into my new resource consent, and I got it. And it was the same senior planner that had given a couple of these other ones that I got. But in saying so, I now have 4 neighbours that have a say on what I do if I want to do anything on the boundary. So one, I wanted to put a footing in for a fence that I was supplying the fences all the way around, and it took them 3 months to give their answer when I was doing something to structurally improve their property. So we're through all that now. I'm here in this most incredible, amazing property. And
describe it, Maree. just describe what you've got there. I've seen the photos. It's
I've
magnificent. Can you help the
So it's still an L shape, similar to because I've got a compact site. So it's on what we call a leg-in. So it's a two properties on one property. So they subdivided off. So I go down the drive beside the other one, and it's a real surprise. It's on the downside of the hill, and you don't even know it's here. And when you come inside, it just sort of opens up. Everything is behind or below. And as I said, these three-way views, and we've used a lot of natural. Well, we've used cedar is used a lot here in Queenstown and Wanaka, but I've actually used an aluminium product and it's powder coated to look like cedar so that it's easy with the ocean breeze to wash and things like that. I've used some schist stone, which is a Wanaka schist stone, and like it took them 5 months to do that on the inside of the chimney and inside and outside, and then all the way up the front door to upstairs. We've used like an aluminium product. We've got our glass balcony, but then we've got on the outside of that, I'm sitting looking at it, and it's got an angled from 300 up to 900 and angled up, and then the next corner it goes down, the next one goes up, and that's to symbolize the mountains in the Māori culture, because I've called this property Tirohanga Nui as a tribute to three of my mokos, my grandchildren. And so Nui is great, and Tirohanga is panoramic views. And then I've had a lot of adverse comments and people on social media and things happen to me. Some architect wanted me to put an LED light around this mountain scene, and I just felt that was too ostentatious. But yet again, something happened, and I thought, the cowshed word, the F-bomb, let's do it. So it's incredible. At night, it's a lot of LED. It just looks so romantic, so lovely, and I wish I could win lotto and live here, but that's not going to fulfill my dream of who I am and keep my brain active. So it's just lovely to live in. And I've got 3 guest suites, and so now I've got a new battle on my hands, which is because we're about a year late. We need my guest base is mainly Americans, and I need inbound operators. So real estate agents, travel agents overseas come to these inbound operators, and they have a portfolio. So they're all booked out, and people have done all their bookings. So I don't have any bookings for that right at this moment. So we've just spoken to a consultant as how we're going to manage some of that. And there's 10% will be nationwide and maybe a little bit of Australia. And we're targeting, I'd like to have some bride get ready packages. We've got an amazing old Lone and mercantile building that's great for weddings, just amazing setup, and we look down on that. Valentine's, elopements. I'm just starting a collaboration with Compatico, a dating agency in New Zealand, an elite one, where I'd like to have their people come and stay and do something with them. So there's a lot of things happening, but financially the money's pretty much gone. So we're just listing a boat, and later on my son and I are going to take photos of the motorhome, because you can always buy more of those. It's going to be absolutely a few months before the guests come, and I do have this holiday house which has gained a lot in capital gains over the last 7 years since I've had it. So I am looking at downscaling that and getting some of that gain out to reduce some of the debt. So I've initiated a meeting with the financier. So I was on with finance. First tier is your bank, second tier is finance companies, and third tier is ugly. And I have been for the last 9 months. I have been on third tier finance, which is 11.25%, and it's compound interest.
Oh wow!
So each month, and now I've managed to secure some second tier finance. I think it's 7.4%, and so I'm having a meeting with that chap who's down on the South Island next week. So I want to talk to him about my business plan. He just put some numbers together, and I want to show him some of the other things I want to do and where I want to go with this. I also have a passion for classic cars, and I do a car rally, a particular one each year, and I won it 2 years ago. And last year, so it's sort of within north of Timaru to the rest of the South Island. and I took it from Twizel, which is near Mount Cook, and down to Oamaru, which follows the Alps to Ocean cycle trail path. So where I live in Oamaru is Mount Cook to Oamaru is where this the New Zealand's longest cycle trail is, which I actually did December 24. So I'm getting the IP rights for that journey, and I'm going to have that as corporate orienteering retreats. So they start.
Just pause there. Just pause there. Oh, this is absolutely magnificent. I want to ask a question before, because I'm getting close to winding down. How long did it take you to, from the idea of this luxury lodge to what you've got and you're sitting in today? How many years did that take you? Just so the listeners get some context.
4 years ago, I bought the property.
So 4 years you've been working at it, and already you're on to another adventure, because I know you loved classic cars and that's fabulous, but do you think you'll ever just go, or do you think you're one of
No,
these? No, you're
no.
not going to settle, are you going to keep going? Is there a bigger vision? You know, this is obviously going to work. You're one of those women.
Yes, well, there is, because I was kind and kept the house at the same height as the previous house. I could have gone 2 meters higher. I want to put a penthouse suite up there because I haven't been treated particularly nicely by significant neighbours and people. So that I want to do that. I'm hanging on to this house in Twizel because I'd like it to be Aoraki Nui and have a lower cost retreats there. And I've got the bases here. I've got a chef. I've got cleaning staff. If I can combine, and it's only an hour and a half apart. And I've got magnificent views up to Mount Cook. From there, if I can't keep that, well, it is what it is. It's not how it's meant to be, and it's not all business. I would love to have a partner. I've
Okay.
been doing this quite alone, and I've had eczema all over my face and arms. It's been a horrifically stressful journey and a lot of tears and a lot of trips down that wharf. So that's all gone now, and I would like to be with a life partner. So part of it is to not have this going 100%, maybe 50, 60%, so that I've got time to do some of the things that I like to do, like the car rallying or motorhome, and soon buy another one, I suppose, in time. I'll make that happen.
You will. Maree, I'm absolutely, absolutely thrilled. Some of the story I knew, some of it I didn't, but I love your endeavors. I love your drive. It's really an inspiring story, and I know our audience is going to absolutely love it. Is there one thing that you would say to people over 50 that would inspire them to get off their butts and do something?
Anything is possible, anything is achievable, as long as you believe in yourself and that you can do it. I admit there's been times I've felt, what am I doing? But I don't feel that anymore. I've given it a go. Give it a go. And if it doesn't work out, it's not meant to be. But I want to be that person sitting on my 100th birthday saying, I've done this, I've done that, not the person that says, I wish I had.
Yes, exactly. Is there a book in this? I've just got to ask that one last question.
No, I don't want to. No, I don't. This is probably the closest I've got from exposing a lot of how I've thought and felt. I don't feel the need. For me, I know how I've lived my life. My children know, but I've actually asked for my 65th birthday. I now get the pension as well. So I actually asked for, there's a book that you can write about to your grandchildren.
Oh, yeah. Untold Story, I think it's called.
Yes, something like that. So that's what I wanted for I might have got it for Christmas. I think they forgot for my 65th. So I've filled that out so that my grandchildren, they only know me as Granny. They don't know this other person. And if I have a call, they'll say things like, oh, why are you talking? So when I'm running my business, they don't see that side because they're not here.
Your granny, like your granny. Yeah. Well, Maree, thank you. It's been a real treat for me. And thanks for giving up your time. I know you're enormously busy, but you're deeply inspiring. And thanks again for your time. I really loved our session today.
Thank you so much, Mary, for the opportunity. And yes, I hope I get asked for this again another time. I've enjoyed it. And it's about sharing everything with people and not hiding.
Yeah, well, you've certainly been very transparent, and I know our audience will truly, I do, and they will absolutely appreciate the frankness of the conversation. So thanks again.
Thank you, Mary, and everyone.
Thank you for joining us on The Richness of Our Lives. If today's conversation stirred something in you, I'd love to hear about it. Connect with me on social media, leave a review, or share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And if you are ready to step into your own bold journey, join our vibrant Chair Squad. We meet weekly for coaching and connection. Until next time, continue to embrace the richness of your life. I'm Maree Scott, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.